UFC 310 is so stacked, and it's finally announced. I can't believe the UFC's stacking another pay-per-view like this. I'm going to be breaking down every single fight on this main card that's been announced. I'm going to be giving you guys my thoughts on them, breaking them down, and giving you guys an early prediction. Subscribe to the video. I'm so hyped for this card. Let's get into it. The first fight that's been announced on this stacked main card is Anthony Smith taking on Dominic Reyes. Oh man, I'm so excited for this fight because Dominic Reyes he's just one of my personal favorites. Anthony Smith, I don't not like him, but I feel like he's just so delusional, almost too delusional sometimes, and I just really like to see him lose. It's not anything against him. I just, he's a very good stepping stool for all the light heavyweights that are trying to get up in the rankings, okay? A few fights ago, he used to be a good stepping stool for the top 10, but nowadays he's not really that good anymore. But I think Dominic Reyes is going to completely smoke him. Dominic Reyes, he still has that power in his piston left hand. He still has the heart. He has his confidence back. I think he's going to walk out there and KO Anthony Smith in one. Anthony Smith has proved to be chinny over his past few years, and now he's facing a guy like Dominic Reyes, who, keep in mind, literally beat John Jones and is coming off of a knockout win against a Glory Kickboxing champion in Dustin Jacoby. I do think that Dominic Reyes is going to be able to get this one done. I'm going to go with a first round KO. Just complete domination from Dominic Reyes. Next up, we have Nick Diaz taking on Vicente Luque, and I'm super hyped for Nick Diaz's return. The only problem is he's fighting a ranked good fighter in Vicente Luque. Why don't you give him somebody like Tony Ferguson? Okay? You can't be given Nick Diaz after seeing his last fight years later coming back and then giving him Vicente Luque. Vicente Luque is just going to completely smoke him. If Nick Diaz shows like he's anything from that Robbie Lawler fight, he's going to get completely mopped up by Vicente Luque. It is kind of hard to pick this fight, though, because if Nick Diaz shows any shades of his former self back in the day, then I do think that he would dust up Vicente Luque on the feet. And ever since Vicente Luque had that very, very bad beating by Jeff Neal where he suffered a bad brain injury, he's just kind of shown to be a little bit of a quitter. So I'm not saying that Vicente Luque is going to quit on Nick Diaz, but if Nick Diaz can put that volume on him, okay, put that pace, put that pressure on him, I do think that he might be able to beat up Vicente Luque, but I just can't see Nick Diaz coming back like his old self. I don't really have much faith in Nick Diaz to come back as good as he was in his prime years, so I am going to take Vicente Luque by 30-27 decision. I do think that it's going to be very dominant, but I don't think that Vicente Luque is going to be able to get the finish. Next up, we have a little bit of a halt in the excitement with Aljamain Sterling taking on Movsar Evloev. I'm not going to lie to you, I kind of hope that both these guys lose, but I don't even want to spend any time covering it. Aljamain Sterling, he's having a pretty good run at featherweight, although quite boring. And Movsar Evloev, even though he's not necessarily a boring fighter, he can just never seem to get the job done inside the distance. Okay? He definitely robbed Arnold Allen in their last fight, and I do not think that Movsar Evloev should be this high in the rankings right now. I'm not too high on him at all. He can't really inflict damage on anybody, but at the same time, neither can Aljamain Sterling. So I feel like the only guy that Movsar really has a good chance to beat in this featherweight division right now at the top of the rankings is Aljamain Sterling, because any guy that can inflict damage and get good forward pressure on Movsar Evloev, he struggles against. But Aljamain Sterling literally only knows how to hold you down on your back. That's about all he can do. Movsar Evloev actually has pretty decent striking. It's pretty good. It's pretty, it's pretty, right? So I do think that he's going to be able to, pick apart Aljamain Sterling at range on the feet. And since Aljamain Sterling doesn't know how to inflict damage on people, I just think that'll be enough to get the decision done. I'm going to take Movsar Evloev by a 29-28 decision. I think maybe Aljamain Sterling might steal a round by holding Movsar down on his back, but even holding down Movsar could be tough because Movsar has great wrestling. So, who really knows? And if you have a V at the end of your last name and you have a silly-looking beard, the judges are going to give you some benefits. So I think no matter what, Movsar Evloev's going to get the job done. If it's on the feet or if it's on the ground, I just think that he'll be able to kind of stall out against Aljamain Sterling. Next up, we have a rematch between Cyril Gane and Alexander Volkov. I already made a prediction on this video, and I said that Cyril Gane was going to win by decision, and I'm going to stick with that. I do think that a 3-round fight does favor Alexander Volkov, but I just think that Volkov is a bad stylistic matchup or a great stylistic matchup for Cyril Gane. Cyril Gane is a bad stylistic matchup for Alexander Volkov. The way that you beat Cyril Gane is a big power puncher that can wrestle. Okay? If you're a big power puncher that can mix in the takedowns, I think you beat Cyril Gane any day of the week. I think Blades beats him in a rematch. I think Almeida smokes him. I think Ngannou smokes him again. Actually, he kind of beat Ngannou in the first fight. So no. And of course, we know what happened with John Jones. So, and Tom Aspinall completely wrecked Cyril Gane. But Alexander Volkov, he's just a great stylistic matchup for Cyril Gane. He's like a fast, rangy striker on the outside, not a crazy power puncher, and that's exactly what Cyril Gane like. It's either big fat heavyweights or strikers that Cyril Gane will beat, strikers with not insane power. As long as you don't have like crazy power like Tom Aspinall or I don't know, Francis Ngannou, you're not going to beat Cyril Gane. And I don't think that Alexander Volkov is going to be able to beat him. I think it's going to be a tit for tat striking battle that Cyril Gane's going to edge out every single round. So I am going to take Cyril Gane by a 30-27 decision, but it's going to be a lot closer than the scorecards. Next up, we have Kai Asakura making his UFC debut, getting a title shot against Alexandre Pantoja. I don't fully agree with Kai Asakura getting a title shot in his UFC debut. I know that he's out there selling at arenas in Japan. I know that he's beating former UFC fighters, and I know that he was a Risen FC champ, and he was just completely dominating Japan. All right? But I just don't think that you can give him a title shot in his first fight in the UFC. For one, he's never made 125 before. He's always been fighting at 135. So we don't even know if he can make the weight properly. And two, we haven't really seen what he has to offer yet in the UFC. There are people like Brandon Royval, who just got a great win over Tatsuro Taira. Amir Albazi, who God, please do not give Amir Albazi a title shot, but he does deserve it more than Kai Asakura. And you have Kai Kara France, who just got a nasty KO over Steve Ercek. There are so many different fighters that you could have given to give him a title shot over Kai Asakura, but they went with Kai Asakura. And I honestly totally understand. This guy is very, very special, and I think that he's going to use his grappling and his striking. I mean, he is just so fast on the feet, and he has some great, great grappling. I'm telling you, up in Japan, they're doing something with their grappling because there are some great fighters coming up in this division with absolutely insane grappling. And I do think that Kai Asakura is not going to let Pantoja camp in half guard on him, and I do think that Kai Asakura is going to be able to get up to his feet. And if you can stay on your feet against Pantoja, you're going to smoke him. Steve Ercek got robbed against him, and as long as they don't rob him, I'm going to take Kai Asakura by a 49-46. Pretty dominant decision. Now on to the main event. We have Shavkat Rakhmonov taking on Belal Muhammad. I am so excited to see Belal Muhammad's shit title reign come to an end before he can even get his first title defense. If you guys don't know yet, even though I picked him to beat Leon Edwards, I hate Belal Muhammad. And I think that Shavkat Rakhmonov's going to completely smoke him. He's going to smoke him on the feet. He's going to smoke him on the ground. The problem with Leon Edwards is he is so low output that it gave Belal the chance to get the takedowns and get his back and hold him there. Shavkat Rakhmonov is not low output in the slightest bit, and he's going to keep the pressure on Belal Muhammad. He's going to be able to match his wrestling. He's going to be able to defend those takedowns and maybe even get a couple himself. And if this fight stays on the feet, anybody can beat Belal Muhammad. So as long as he doesn't come in with veins that I've never seen veins come out of people before and muscles in places where I didn't even know that you could have them, I think that Shavkat Rakhmonov's going to completely smoke Belal Muhammad. I'm not even going to spend any more time on this. Give me Shavkat Rakhmonov by a second round submission or TKO to ground and pound. Who's with me?